My question is for Megan. Megan, besides holder of briefcase 24 on Deal or No Deal, what do you think your most impactful role was?
You know, it's so funny that you say playing the part of a delusional made-up princess. I am a delusional made-up princess.
They won't let me call myself Her Royal Highness anymore.
It's so quiet and empty here. If we moved her, then people would think we're really serious about wanting to be normal. It does seem perfect, doesn't it?
But I want to discuss South Park, and it's the episode everyone's talking about. It went to air overnight in the US. It was an absolute roasting.
Your millions from Netflix for no one knows what.
Put it with the rest of them.
Test audiences sat in complete silence. Not a single laugh. Not even a gasp. That's when executives knew they had a problem. Because when South Park makes a room go dead quiet.
Have you ever seen that video?
No.
Pull that video up, because it's one of my
Tomorrow night, a big swathe of the world media will be showing you the highlights of a brand new episode of South Park, which goes to air middle of the day tomorrow in the US.
You're either witnessing comedy history or a career-ending disaster. And right now, nobody's sure which one this is. We're talking about an episode that allegedly had test audiences sitting in dead silence. Not the awkward kind of silence.
So, do you have any regrets yourself?
Of course, don't we all? Probably my main regret is, the way that everyone else has acted. That's the thing that's most regrettable in my opinion.
And then people kept wanting to get a picture, because I'm on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. So, a lot of people coming up to us.
But the kind where people don't know whether to laugh, gasp, or check if what they just witnessed actually happened. Word on the street is that executives spent hours in closed-door meetings debating whether this thing should even see the light of day. What's got everyone so rattled? From what's leaking out, this isn't your typical South Park roast. This is something different. Something that takes aim at high-profile interviews, tears into NDA-protected territory, and delivers a finale that people are calling both genius and potentially devastating.
Did you do much beyond Rachel from Suits?
Well, besides Rachel from Suits, I also played Megan.
The kind of ending that doesn't just push boundaries but obliterates them entirely. So what's really in that final scene that has insiders whispering and PR teams allegedly working overtime? Let's piece together what's been making its way through industry circles. But here's what nobody's talking about yet. The corgi scene. We'll get there.
Now viewers are hoping for another installment poking fun at them, citing the delivery ward twerking video posted by the Duchess earlier this month as perfect reference material for creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone.
We want privacy! We want privacy!
On social media site X, fans made a call back to respect our privacy line in response to reposts of Megan's twerking.
It started with a table read that nobody will forget. According to someone who was supposedly there, speaking anonymously on Discord, the atmosphere in that room shifted the moment Trey Parker got to the revised ending. People who've been around South Park for years, who've seen every controversial episode come together, apparently couldn't hide their reactions this time. The story goes that Parker added a last-minute twist that flips a certain tell the truth demand completely on its head. Picture this, he's reading through the script, gets to this particular punchline, and the room just freezes. Then, according to the leak, he stands up, tosses the script onto the table, and says something along the lines of ending on truth or not ending at all. That's when things got real. Within minutes, someone from legal was supposedly called in, carrying what witnesses described as an unusually thick file marked with royal-related contingencies.
I am strong enough that I can thank myself. Thank you, Megan.
Act like you're having fun. Act like you're having fun.
But here's where it gets interesting. Parker and Stone apparently pulled out their creative control clause, basically daring anyone to try stopping them. One person who claimed to be there said the tension was more intense than when they did the Tom Cruise episode, which is saying something. Eventually, the room broke into laughter after what's being described as an absolutely savage one-liner about a certain trademarked jam venture. Insiders are suggesting that Parker and Stone can smell Emmy gold when this kind of controversy hits, and that final joke, the one they're calling the boomerang gag, supposedly lands in the last 3 seconds with the impact of a freight train. Could this be the moment keeping PR teams up at night? Because what happened next shows just how serious things got. And trust me, the jam joke is nothing compared to what the lighting tech leaked. Just hours after that explosive table read, the studio hallways were apparently buzzing with talk about sequences that crank the satire up to levels rarely seen, even by South Park standards. A lighting technician, sharing details on Reddit, described rumors of a scene involving an animated character storming what looks like a hospital set, wielding a bright pink megaphone like it's some kind of weapon. The writers allegedly wove in rapid-fire flashbacks, mocking specific interview moments. One supposedly shows someone bragging about kitchen accomplishments with a Jam brand caption plastered across the screen. Another mimics those "exactly where I'm supposed to be" declarations before cutting to staff members literally running for the exits under a sign reading NDA or nothing. From what's leaking through unverified Slack messages, Parker insisted certain interview references stay in because, in his words, real satire has to quote the source material. Meanwhile, outside the studio, podcast critics and body language analysts have been tearing apart certain interviews, claiming they spotted micro-expressions revealing tension, calling clips inauthentic, questioning every gesture and word choice. South Park's writers apparently saw all of this and pounced. In the alleged animatic, lips glitch into mechanical smiles while background characters chant authenticity, like they're in some kind of cult. Then comes what people are calling the kicker. An animated counterpart tries to intervene, only to get completely flattened by a cart stacked with unsold jars from that orchard venture. Sound engineers supposedly layered in real, glass-shattering audio to drive the metaphor home with maximum impact. Executives flagged it as harsh, but Parker allegedly joked that everything was fact-checked by Instagram statistics. With each revision, sources say the portrayal becomes less and less sympathetic. Yet Parker refuses to soften anything. The question everyone's asking now is whether network executives will force mercy edits, or if this vision will survive completely intact. Then came Tuesday's closed-door screening, and things went from intense to absolutely explosive. What happened in that room changed everything. Fresh reports from that screening, held for studio interns and friends, claim the third act transforms that tell the truth refrain into a full-blown courtroom spoof. Townspeople are supposedly suing for emotional distress caused by perpetual rebrands. One attendee described a mock judge pounding the gavel before cutting to a massive screen, replaying a recently viral clip that everyone recognized immediately. The audience allegedly gasped, then burst into howls of laughter when an animated tennis star storms into the courtroom, rolls her eyes, and mutters something dismissive that's supposedly a nod to advice someone once gave about honesty. The cameo is technically parody to keep it legally defensible, but the dialogue mirrors real quotes so closely that lawyers immediately flagged potential risks. Here's where it gets even more brutal. Writers allegedly snuck in a streaming service logo that flashes across the screen, labeled One Season Wonder, while the music riffs on a legal drama theme. Critics wasted no time connecting the dots, claiming the show is highlighting projects that launched with massive hype only to be quietly abandoned. The rumored montage flashes through podcast series, jam launches, entrepreneurial hustles mentioned in various interviews. One intern told a fan blog that producers used actual podcast laugh tracks as canned studio laughter. Pure meta brilliance. Totally brutal. South Park leadership reportedly celebrated when focus groups scored the pacing at 94%. Most of the cards read hilariously savage, but a couple said, tone feels meaner than usual, borderline uncomfortable. Insiders claim no formal complaints reached legal departments yet, but monitoring is definitely happening, especially after word spread about a book title reference that gets shouted right before the climax. One executive called it the dagger nobody will forget. Whether it survives the final cut is anyone's guess, because if it stays, this could vault into franchise legend or trigger the most intense pushback since certain notorious television interviews. And that's not even touching on what's being called the musical sequence. Wait until you hear who they allegedly got inspiration from. Sources claiming access to contested storyboards describe a musical segment that opens with an animated character belting out show tunes while waving shredded contracts around like they're fans at a concert. The unverified lyrics supposedly play on interview confessions about being hands-on with various projects. The chorus comes back with, "Hands on the pen, sign here again," and every high note allegedly triggers glittery jam jars raining down from above, splattering lawyers sitting in a jury box. Rumors suggest Parker and Stone actually studied body language analyst channels, pulling viral screen captures and stitching them into quick-fire reaction shots during the song. The alleged meta joke here is that no NDA can silence a meme once it's been sung on cable television. It's supposedly a swipe at diaries getting locked behind legal walls, while public perception runs wild online. The momentum supposedly ratchets up when an animated interviewer materializes holding cue cards, trying to suggest maybe pivot to purpose, but gets physically shoved aside with an "I pivoted yesterday" response. Test viewers told podcasters that moment landed like a punch, especially with the parody interviewer blinking 5 times in a row, mirroring a clip that went viral from a real interview. Commentary from royal correspondents allegedly reached the writers in real time, inspiring a news ticker insert. One correspondent supposedly calls it narcissistic karaoke. If true, that would mark the fastest critique to animation turnaround in South Park history, under 10 days from comment to screen. Studio sources claim executives laughed, but they circled the part where an animated spouse checks his phone backstage, muttering about canceled investor calls. Observers see this as a direct dig at business struggles, especially when a giant sold-out a gang stamp supposedly crashes onto the screen. One legal consultant warned the satire might be too inside baseball, but writers countered that the entire story has been inside baseball since that first viral clip dropped. But nothing prepared people for what allegedly comes next. The diary scene is where things get genuinely dark. Unverified whispers claim the following act features something so specific that insiders suspect someone has actual intel about diaries allegedly stashed in legal vaults. 2 freelance artists on encrypted forums describe rumors of a frantic character discovering pink journals piled outside palace gates, each one embossed with "Tell the Truth" in gold lettering. Opening one supposedly reveals hourly logs of midnight memos, demands about floral arrangements, and a 3 a.m. directive for beige everything. A sticky note allegedly reads, "Remember tribute post by 3 p.m., supposedly nodding to online breakdowns analyzing lukewarm social media posts that felt more obligatory than genuine. A hologram tennis champion supposedly floats above the scene, repeating quotes about how lies don't last forever before smacking the books with a racket, launching them skyward like tennis balls. The hologram glitches to "Truth can't hide forever," which allegedly had lawyers rereading clauses at dawn the next day. Here's where it gets wild. Writers reportedly inserted an actual QR code on one of the animated diaries. Early testers who scanned it landed on looping clips of interviewers smiling blankly with "great question" speech bubbles appearing over their heads. Observers claimed this scored huge laughs but triggered emergency meetings with streaming executives worried about existing business deals getting torpedoed. Adding insult to injury, a jam jar rolls across the screen, oozing over the diaries while a robotic voice chirps, "Spreading thin, achieved." The jar label allegedly morphs from the original branded name to "rebrand soon" before melting into a puddle. Test viewers reportedly gasped when the puddle sprouts 2 tiny animated children waving price tags, alluding to accusations about potential merchandising exploitation. The lights dim, thunder cracks, and the character allegedly yells, "Not the kids," before everything cuts to static. What follows, according to rumors, makes that outburst look tame. Producers are supposedly bracing for serious backlash over the very next sequence. And here's where the slot machine comes in. You'll understand why legal flagged this immediately. When the static clears, it supposedly reveals a courtroom transformed into a tech stage. A spotlight hits the main avatar brandishing that megaphone, cueing a holographic presentation about impact metrics. Instead of charts and graphs, though, a conveyor belt of former staff members rolls by, each one clutching shredded daybook calendars. Each person waves, which speeds up the conveyor, firing NDA confetti everywhere like a twisted celebration. The character declares, "See? Nothing to hide," while a transparency counter flashes 100% transparent minus 99%. Multiple sources claim Parker inserted a meta cameo here, a crudely drawn interviewer trying to discuss profit margins. Every time Jam gets mentioned, the whole thing gets buzzed into a strategic pivot. By the 4th interruption, the interviewer supposedly melts into literal spread, oozing off the stage as someone in tech support snarks, "Another partnership toasted." Studio leakers say the writers wanted viewers to recall real-world admissions about vetoing decision-by-committee approaches, casting this meltdown as the logical conclusion of that philosophy. Then comes what executives labeled as particularly brutal. The lights dim again. A giant slot machine drops from above, showing spinning icons of streaming services, talk show silhouettes, and dollar signs. The character yanks the lever, chanting something about faith over fear. The slots land on a crown, a corgi, and a flag. Alarms immediately start blaring. Contract breach flashes in red. A clerk stamps revoked on a document, and the machine collapses entirely, sending the avatar through a trapdoor labeled Heritage Brand Pending. Test audiences reportedly sat in stunned silence until Parker deadpanned something like, "That's not an ending, that's a beginning." As security ushered people out, one group of viewers claimed the writers weren't actually done. They whispered about a post-credits sting, so savage it might never make it to air. What could possibly top a trapdoor freefall into brand obscurity? Stay with me, because what's rumored for that final tag might be the most ruthless moment of all. Remember that corgi I mentioned at the beginning? Insiders who stayed through the credits claim the lights flickered back on for one razor-thin epilogue. The scene allegedly opens in a dimly lit kitchen, modeled after social media backdrops from those viral moments everyone remembers. An exhausted cartoon spouse tries organizing leftover jam jars while speaking into a broken podcast microphone that barely works. Every single word gets censored by quote, content pending legal review bars sliding across the screen. Then an elderly corgi wearing a headset appears, clearly channeling those beloved royal pets everyone adores. The dog hits play on a recorder, and it starts blasting, "Someone else's urgency is not my urgency" on a loop, getting progressively louder with each repetition. Writers allegedly framed this as karmic payback in its purest form. The more the phrase repeats, the faster the kitchen fills with NDA confetti, ripped daybook pages, and streaming logos fluttering around a dimming light bulb like moths. Finally, the corgi trots to center stage and presses a giant red button labeled Fact Check. The entire set dissolves into static, revealing a title card. End of transmission. Truth not found. Sources claim audiences erupted in half-horrified laughter, with one executive muttering, "This is the harshest fade-out we've ever done." Pundits who criticize those interviews are supposedly already sharpening their takes, predicting the corgi will trend harder on social media than any jam launch ever did. Body language analysts are claiming the animated reactions mirror real-world ones with uncomfortable accuracy. South Park's team is allegedly weighing minimal edits, but tension is definitely building in PR circles. Whispers suggest frantic emails are flying, asking whether legal action could actually stop this before final lock. A studio source supposedly just shrugs. Final mix is days away. Satire laws are pretty solid. So here we are, suspended between leak and broadcast, between rumor and reality. And the clock is ticking. Will that corgi scene survive? Could existing partnerships take real damage? And if the writers deliberately left room for follow-up episodes, what comes next? The alleged leaks paint an episode that doesn't just mock its subject, but dissects every venture, every interview, every calculated departure, with surgical precision and South Park's signature brutality. Whether any of this actually airs remains genuinely uncertain. Networks pull content all the time. Legal teams demand edits. Sometimes, rumors spiral wilder than anything that could possibly be real. But if even half of these whispers carry weight, we're looking at one of the most talked about episodes in South Park's boundary-obliterating history. The creators built their entire reputation on refusing to back down, transforming controversy into comedy gold, and dominating cultural conversations for weeks on end. This alleged installment seems engineered to do exactly that, spark fierce debates about satire limits, privacy boundaries, the gap between public image and messy reality, and whether anyone is truly off-limits when it comes to parody. Critics will argue it crosses lines that shouldn't be crossed. Defenders will cite satire protections and freedom of expression. Viewers will ultimately decide which side they're on. The cycle continues, the way it always does with South Park. What's absolutely certain? Anticipation is building to a fever pitch. Forums are buzzing with speculation. Commentary channels are prepping reaction videos. Legal observers are watching closely, taking notes. And somewhere in those animation studios, Rumors suggest artists are putting final touches on what could genuinely be the most controversial episode the show has ever produced. Drop your theories in the comments below. Smash that like button if you want to see how this plays out. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next development in this unfolding situation. Because trust me, if these rumors hold even a fraction of truth, you absolutely won't want to miss what happens when this thing finally drops.